And hold on to the handrail, YouTube. The Jago Mover is now departing for the next video.
The next stop will be the state of Florida. Carriers serving Florida include Brightline, America's private inner-city passenger railroad, which, as many in the rail fan or transit community are aware, is about to extend its dang good inner-city rail service from South Florida to Orlando. Beyond here, the company has more than one plan to expand service in the state, first to Tampa and then potentially to Jacksonville. A few months ago, I was watching a webinar that a Brightline representative did with the High Speed Rail Alliance, which is a really great organization that you all should check out. They do advocacy and awareness for bringing not just more high-speed rail, but more integrated car light and car-free transportation options to the United States. But back to the webinar, a couple of questions asked of the Brightline representative got me thinking. One, when Brightline starts Tampa service, will it serve Tampa Union Station? Two, will Brightline expand to Jacksonville? And on the way, will it have stops at St. Augustine or Daytona Beach? So after I watched the webinar, I was curious if Brightline does put stations in, say, St. Augustine, Daytona, Jacksonville, etc., where specifically in those places would the stations go? So I investigated and made my own guesses. I did so with excessive trolling on Google Maps, which is a pastime that I spend too much time for my own good. Now, disclaimer before we start, we will not be talking about the stops at Universal and Disney, since plenty of videos have already talked about that debacle. So the pieces of criteria I use to determine the station locations are: one, where is there feasibly room for it in terms of vacant land size? And two, since Brightline stated their priority was for their stations to enable connections for other first and last mile options, I'm going to focus on sites that are well connected to whatever transit connections exist in the city or town that the station is located in. So since it seems likely the Tampa extension will occur first, let's start there. So the site for the Tampa station has already tentatively been decided. In 2020, Brightline announced it was partnering with a developer to integrate a new Brightline station into the developer's new development. More recently, this development has materialized into Gasworks, which will build up this vacant land between the Channelside District and Ybor City, which is east of downtown Tampa. It broke ground in March of 2023. Now, should Gasworks become the site of the new Brightline station, it will have one major advantage, and that is the station will be located right along the Tico Heritage streetcar. Tico is Tampa's only fixed guideway local transit and connects Tampa downtown to Ybor City with many stops in between. It currently operates with Gameco streetcars that, despite their vintage appearance, are relatively modern, 20-ish years old. Now, until recently, the streetcar was set to expand in a big way. In 2018, the county passed a sales tax, which was supposed to have funded, among other things, the procurement of modern streetcars and extended the line farther into downtown Tampa, I think to the Marion Transportation Center, which is basically where all the Heart Tampa local buses come together. But unfortunately, in 2021, in a shocking decision, the Florida Supreme Court struck down the tax. The county put down another tax on the ballot for the 2022 November general election, but it narrowly failed to pass. Despite these setbacks, the Tico is already becoming relatively useful as a transit option. Starting March 19th, 2023, the streetcar now has these expanded hours and frequencies. It runs 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Monday to Thursday. And on Friday, it runs 8:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. Saturday. And on Saturday, it runs 8:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. Sunday. Better yet, throughout the entire day, 7 days a week, the headway is consistent 15 minutes with a 12-minute headway between 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I think if and when Brightline opens to Tampa, the streetcar could be an asset in and of itself, because I imagine that there will be a lot of people who are, say, visiting the Orlando theme parks who will be able to take a day trip on Brightline down to Tampa. And the streetcar could be a way of distributing all these tourists and could be an extra incentive to come to Tampa in and of itself. And given that the service increases are being funded, I think, through private funding, I could perhaps even see Brightline funding new streetcar vehicles and expansion in the distant future if Florida's government can't get their act together like they couldn't for high-speed rail, which is how Brightline started in the first place. Anyway, in terms of other transit connections in your immediate vicinity, you have a few HART bus routes running once an hour on weekdays, sometimes twice an hour, so kind of typical. But if you walk about 13 minutes to Tampa Union Station, you also have the 400 Metro Rapid BRT, which runs, at least on weekdays, every 15 minutes, 4:30 a.m. to 12 a.m. from the University of South Florida to the Marion Transit Center in downtown, which is, again, the hub for a lot of the Tampa HART local buses. So overall, Tampa has some decent connections already. So let's move on to Lakeland, which Brightline may serve with an infill station between Orlando and Tampa. So since Brightline will be using the median of the I-4 interstate, hopefully, between these two cities, I'm going to make the assumption that the platform for the Lakeland station will be inside the freeway. This may sound non-ideal, but I think I found a decent place for it. And that's the overpass where the Interstate 4 crosses over US 98. First off, the median here is quite wide, so I think there would be enough room for an island platform in between two tracks. Now, as for the station building itself, the waiting room, the food, the shopping, the fare gates, and all the other things that Brightline stations are known for, I think Brightline could easily just buy the current Howard Johnson Hotel, which is right by the freeway, and redevelop the property for use in the station. I mean, if the owners insist on wanting to keep their business, Brightline could probably just incorporate the hotel into their new station. That would be really cool. Now, yes, this site is on a huge 6-lane stroad, but it has a few unexpected redemptions. Firstly, it's right next to a grid neighborhood that in the future could be densified into a really cool TOD area. Second, it's right next to the Greyhound Flick station, which mostly just serves places Brightline will connect in the future. But it does offer a good direct connection to Atlanta, which neither Brightline or Amtrak will probably serve in the near future. But best of all, the Greyhound bus station also hosts not one, but 2 Polk County Citrus Connection local bus routes that take you right to downtown Lakeland and the bus transfer station. The service hours can be a little funky. The service ends at 6 or 7 p.m., so there's no evening service. But when they are running, the weekday headways are actually better than Tampa's, with consistent service on the Gold route every half hour, with additional hourly frequencies on the Blue route. Oh, and did I forget to mention that Rita's Water Ice is just a 10-minute walk away through big box parking lots? That's the cherry water ice on top of the soft serve for me. Sorry, dad joke. So now we'll turn to the Jacksonville extension, starting with the Jacksonville station itself. It's no contest. The Prime F. Osborn Convention Center, formerly Jacksonville Union Station, it's the perfect candidate. It formerly served passenger trains until 1974, and now the space that I imagine used to host tracks and platforms between the Florida East Coast Railroad and the Convention Center, I think it's begging for those tracks and platforms to be put back in. And if the Convention Center isn't enticed by extra revenue that would come from incorporating a train station and all the shops that Brightline will almost certainly bring with it into the Convention Center, it would definitely entice by additional money for the rights to build a station, building, and TOD on top of their parking lot. Even better, though, right across the street, all of Jacksonville's public transportation, Greyhound intercity buses, JTA local buses, and the Jacksonville Skyway People Mover, which Google Maps apparently classifies as a subway. I don't think it claims that title. Not with these service hours, you don't. The only thing that is not in the area is the Jacksonville Amtrak station, which is decidedly north of downtown. Well, at least there's a bus connecting the Amtrak station and the downtown transit center that runs every half hour. Maybe in the future, Amtrak Silver Meteor and Silver Star can use Florida East Coast and Brightline track south of Jacksonville, and they can just stop at the new Brightline station. Next is Daytona Beach, which only has one real transit connection, the VOTRAN or Volusia County Public Transportation Connection Bus Transfer Plaza. Fortunately, it's only a 5-minute walk from the Florida East Coast Railroad tracks. Unfortunately, there isn't any obvious space near this crossing where Brightline could just put down a station. What I ultimately came up with is that on the other side of the tracks, there are just a bunch of warehouses, a lot of them storage warehouses, which I don't think those are the hardest thing to buy out and relocate. So I think that would be a good place to put the Brightline station. And it would be just a 10-minute walk to all manner of buses to connect you to the rest of Daytona Beach and the rest of Volusia County. Anyway, last but not least is St. Augustine, which is the oldest European settlement in what is now the United States. I give this town credit for being a 9-line bus system with 2 express routes that has integrated transfer times between 4 of these routes at a central bus stop, and for having the same service on Saturday as you do on weekends. The only problem is that the service that runs on Saturday and the weekdays is frequencies that are every 2 hours. So I think it'll be a real hit or miss whether people choose to take Brightline Plus when they actually get off the train at St. Augustine. Or then again, maybe Brightline will find it cheaper long term to just subsidize the frequencies of buses that are already running instead of paying for the maintenance of a fleet of Teslas and the salaries of drivers. So because the stop where a lot of bus routes connect at the same time is nowhere near the Florida East Coast Railroad, I had to settle for proposing the station site at a place in the proximity of the highest number of bus routes possible, and while still preferably having some amount of vacant land. Well, fortunately, such a place exists at 35 North Ponce de Leon Boulevard, a large empty lot right next to the tracks that is right across the river from downtown St. Augustine. It's perfect for a station. And within a 15-minute walk are the Orange Line, Blue Line, and Red Line, as well as an express route that doesn't stop currently, but I'm sure would once this train station was opened. And heck, I'm sure all of the bus routes I already mentioned would just be diverted to serve the train station once it actually opened. And if there was any trouble relocating that liquor store that's between the road and the station site, I think Brightline would offer to incorporate that into their station too. So those are all the Brightline stations I'm covering today. Let me know your thoughts and critiques of my suggestions in the comments. This is the last stop for the Jago Mover today. Before leaving, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so I can provide you with more videos like this.